Hi guys, and welcome to the Boldly Ambitious podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Liddy.
And I'm Hazal, and this is a space for the ambitious girlies chasing big dreams and building bold lives.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the one thing that silently shapes everything you do, and that is your mindset. Because the truth is, you can't build a big life with small expectations. If you were raised around limitation, lack, low standards, dreaming bigger doesn't always come naturally to you, especially as ambitious women, where boldness, building a life you want, are not one that is necessarily fed to you by societal standards of what a woman should be, is an act of defiance within itself. It's fair to say that I'm so passionate about this topic because I think we've seen firsthand how your beliefs about what is realistic can quietly shape the future you build for yourself. But luckily, mindset isn't fixed. It is something that you can stretch. So I'm hoping that this episode will do exactly that for you. To get straight into it, how would you say your upbringing shaped what you believed was possible, especially as a woman?
That is such a good question. And it's actually something I've thought about quite a lot because obviously growing up, my family were quite fixated on all of us, going to school and getting good grades to get good jobs in the future. But also, as a girl, I also knew that at one point it was sort of part of our culture to get married and have kids and grow a family. And I didn't see many examples of people doing both. So both, young women getting married, having children, and also studying and having great careers and going on to continue their careers after having children. So it is something I thought about quite a lot. I was quite academic and I knew that I wanted to pursue academia and pursue my career goals, but it was always in the back of my mind, I'm not really seeing anyone else do both. So how am I going to be able to do both? And not until I probably got into my late teens and my early 20s did I see other people in my family be able to do both. And that showed me that, okay, maybe this will be possible, especially as women who pursued medicine as a career. It's just something that's brought up anyways, right? Like, how are you going to do medicine and have children? How are you going to pursue
my life depends on.
All right. How are you going to pursue your career? There's so much training, it's lifelong learning, all this stuff. How are you going to have children and build a family alongside that? And it is something that I was quite worried about, to be honest, going into medicine, because I am a very family oriented person, and that is something I want for my future as well. So I did have a few question marks in my mind, to be honest. But again, once I saw other doctors be able to do it, it made me feel more relieved, because I was like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too.
No, you don't need to sacrifice something that's important to you.
Exactly. You can do it both.
That's so interesting, because I feel like maybe at the time I used to think like that as well at like 18, 16, 17. But I think for me, even though I was lucky enough to be in an environment where my parents encouraged me to go for anything I wanted to go for, no matter how big the dream. I think growing up with a traditional stay-at-home mum, and I have a lot of siblings as well, kind of, even though it didn't make me feel like, oh, this is all there is to me, due to the fact that I was encouraged to be ambitious despite my environment. But it did make me think this is not the reality I want for myself. Like, I want something that looks different. Not saying that that was a bad reality, but it was one of the things that pushed me to be ambitious and be like, this isn't a reality I want for myself. I need to live in a different reality when I'm older, but I don't know what that is yet. And I guess that also leads me to talk about lack, because I know some of us listening to this podcast come from disadvantaged backgrounds, but I think lack or scarcity, whatever that looks like for you, could be an opportunity, it could be in finances, is something that feeds into your understanding of, I wouldn't say what's possible, but of ambition. Because when you lack, then sometimes it does create this desire in you to want to fight for a different life, to want to fight for a different reality. So even though my background, you'd think my background would limit what I believe was possible, it didn't. It pushed me to want to create a different life for myself though. So that's how I'd say my upbringing impacted my ambition as a woman. I really want our listeners to take away from this specifically that mindset isn't always a personal flaw, especially if you're not happy with where your mindset is at in regards to your future and your life. Sometimes it can be a passed down pattern. It is something you can inherit, and not everyone has that ability to kind of, okay, this is the mindset around me, and I want to change it for no, like it's something that sometimes you need to be told. So I'm hoping the main thing you can take away from this is that you can flip the switch on your mindset regardless of things or of belief systems you inherited or you internalized. But if you do want to raise the ceiling of your life, it starts with raising the ceiling in your mind.
Ooh, wow.
Got to keep that one
Definitely,
in mind.
definitely. Your mindset is so malleable.
Yeah.
Like it can be shaped and changed as long as you try.
Since we just touched on this, do you think exposure plays a bigger role in mindset than what people think?
I think definitely. I think exposure does have quite a big impact on our mindset, probably more than we do realize. I would say probably at a baseline, our mindset is impacted 50% by internal factors and probably 50% by external factors. And it's
not scientifically proven, by the way.
Yeah, not scientifically proven, just my opinion. But obviously, it's up to you how much you let those external factors continue to impact your mindset. But I think stuff like we mentioned, upbringing, but also what you see others do does impact what you think is possible for yourself as well, not just with your family and your upbringing, but also what you see on social media and what you see in your network as well. For example, I think we're both quite ambitious people, boldly ambitious people who aim quite high, and that's because I think we had a sort of foundation of wanting more for our life, wanting to do more, wanting to achieve more, but we needed exposure to figure out exactly what that looked like. And I think that's when we went above and beyond to seek exposure. Sometimes you just get that exposure, but sometimes you have to seek that exposure as well. So we had to go out of our way to seek that exposure, whether it be from networking with certain people or researching online or going to conferences, to then help get our mindset to the point we wanted it to be, to achieve the future we wanted to achieve for ourselves.
So essentially there are two elements to this. You're saying there's like an internal mindset element, whereas like you need to have some sort of internal grit or desire to want a specific thing and to want to go after a specific thing, even though you may not necessarily have the ingredients or the formula. And then there's the external part where, based on the influences around you, the information you're receiving, it can then feed into who you are internally in order to kind of package the life you end up building for yourself.
Exactly.
No, I definitely agree. You can't always envision what you can't see, and it's not necessarily due to a lack of ambition or a lack of audacity. Sometimes it's just due to a lack of information. I was listening to this finance podcast the other day, Building Wealth with No Borders by Lamide, and one of her guests was saying how, you know, he wants to expand his property portfolio and go into commercial property and buy a care home one day. Oh, wow. And I was like, whoa, I've never thought about owning a care home. Like, do you get what I mean? Because not even unfortunately, sometimes due to environment and background, and just the spaces you end up in that are outside of your control, you only have access to a certain amount of information. But I'm such a big believer, I heard Stephen Butler say this once, that if you can't get into the rooms where you need to be to gather the information you need for your future, get into the minds of the people in the rooms. And that's why I love listening to podcasts, I love listening to articles, I love learning. You need to access this information and be proactive in it in order to ensure that, even though yes, exposure does influence mindset, that you get that exposure, you know, that there's no reason you shouldn't get that exposure, and that you do your all and your very best to put yourself in rooms where you are exposed to things that will water you and allow you to flourish and grow. And this is not just digital information. For us, I know that it was shadowing doctors when we wanted to do medicine. I know that during medical school, it was, I don't know, watching an editing course so that we could kind of build a side hustle, or maybe attending networking conferences in order to build our network. Not everything is in your control, but what you feed your mind is. And that's something that you just need to hammer down on that belief and just run with it, to be honest.
Absolutely. And I think as humans, we're great at replicating. We're really good at replicating and replicating in a way that's authentic to ourselves. But you physically can't replicate something you don't see or you don't see be possible. So yeah, I think definitely exposure is really, really important.
Yeah. If you're enjoying the podcast so far, be sure to give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on, unless it's YouTube. In that case, subscribe. Thank you. What is one belief that you think shaped your standards without even realizing?
Ooh. That's
at
a good
any point in your
question.
life?
At any point in my life. I would say the belief that you can't do it all was something that sort of hung over my head for a long time. And like, you can't have a work-life balance. You can't do it all. You can't put you have to put all your eggs in one basket essentially. If you're doing a degree, you have to focus on that degree. You can't have a side hustle on the side, or you can't make time for your friends and family or your social life on the side. You have to be fixated and hammer on this one thing. And I think I went into sort of university with that belief. I thought that if everyone says it, I'm not anyone who's special. So if everyone says that this is the case, this is probably going to be the case for me as well. But I realized with time that I define what is possible for myself. I define my mind. Well, I can choose to let things impact my mindset or not impact my mindset. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try doing all these different things alongside my degree and see if it works out. And if it doesn't, fine, they're all right. I'll throw the towel in and I'll go
Congrats,
back to
Jane.
I'll go back to putting all my eggs in one basket. But as someone who was quite, ambitious from quite early on, there was just so much I wanted to do. There were so many things that excited me. I didn't want to be fixated on one thing. So even though many people did say you can't do it all, I proved them wrong, didn't I? I proved them wrong.
No, for sure. I think for me, it'd be settling because it felt safe.
Ooh,
Yeah,
tell me
definitely.
more.
I think growth is uncomfortable. I think going against the grain is uncomfortable, or doing something where there's no guaranteed outcome is quite uncomfortable. And I think for a while it was maybe easy to have the mentality of, oh, people like me don't do X, Y, Z, or it's too late to start, or I've never seen people around me achieve this, that means I can't achieve it. And sometimes we internalize these negative things unnecessarily. But I try to live my life in a way where I'd rather give something a go and fail trying, even though I hate failure, than like live with what ifs. I absolutely bloody hate what ifs. I think I realized at a point in my life that I had to kind of confront these negative thoughts about my self-worth and my self-image that I think were the main precursors preventing me from doing things I wanted to do, pursuing certain initiatives or opportunities. The core thing that I had to come to the realization of in order to flip the switch in my mindset was that I am deserving and I am worthy of certain things. I'm deserving of building the life I want, working hard for it, capturing it, and living in the midst of my hard work and what I deserve. And I think once you come to that realization, it really helps to fight those negative thoughts away that it's not always external people telling you. Sometimes it's yourself. You're internalizing it, and before you know it, it starts to impact your actions and the decisions you're making. And you may not see it now, but all these decisions to hide or to not show up fully, it builds until one day you wake up and you realize, this isn't the reality I wanted for myself. And you had all these dreams, you had all these ideas, you had the resilience and initiative to go for it, but you settled because it was a safer option, and you didn't want to confront all these, internal thoughts about your self-image and your self-worth.
Honestly, like, I think my biggest fear would be sitting at 50 and like reflecting on my life and just being upset. Like, surely you'd rather, or what I tell myself is I'd rather try something and fail, like you said, because we've failed at quite a few things. And, the first time it might,
some private.
The first time it might chip away at your ego. The 10th time it might chip away at your ego. But at the end of the day, we see online as well that actually some of these really successful people and some of these really successful companies had to fail again and again and again, and now they're like multi-million-dollar worth companies, for example, right? So on a much smaller scale with yourself, surely it's better to try something and you fail, try something again, you fail, but then the third time, what if you stumble across something that is just so aligned with you, who you want to be and your future? Surely you would rather look back and say, I'm glad I failed that first and second time to get to this point, rather than living a subpar life.
Definitely. And for my ambitious girlies listening to this today, really take time to reflect on how solidified beliefs that you have about your self-worth and your self-image have impacted your capacity to dream and to go for what you want. I think that's something that unlocking that could be life-changing for many of you, because I know that it was for me.
Wow. So like, would you say they should like sit down and just say like, what do I think I'm worthy of?
I think, what do I think I'm worthy of? And is there anywhere where I'm potentially limiting myself? Because sometimes you won't always see it until you take some time to really deep things. So I'm hoping that as we kind of have this conversation, things come to mind that will help our ambitious girlies reflect, digest, and begin to unlearn and shape a future and a life for themselves that they deserve.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, wow. Because I feel like a lot of people think, you know, they had these dreams, but they couldn't achieve it, but it stops there. But it could be very powerful to sit down and just say, why? Why did I not achieve this dream?
Right.
It might not be your fault. We're not saying it's your fault, guys. It might have been external factors or whatever it may be, but really try and pinpoint and get as specific as possible. Why exactly did this dream not happen?
Yeah, or this goal. It's not always always as big as a dream. It can be simply a goal you set for yourself this year. But I agree, it's the only way you can really stop negative patterns from occurring and defining your life.
I know that's something that's quite difficult. You know, we're saying it as if it's easy, but it's a lot more harder to do than it is to say. But growth and mindset shift isn't easy. Otherwise everyone would do it. You know, it comes with difficulties. It comes with really facing yourself and really chipping away at your own ego, I guess, and your own pride, and be like, no, like, it was your fault, this doesn't happen, but how do we prevent this from happening again?
Yeah. And I think if you've already clicked on this episode, you've already taken a huge step there. So proud of you, girlies. And yeah, I think slowly but surely we'll unlearn and continue to chase those big dreams and build those bold lives that we are deserving of.
Yes.
But yeah, so that was kind of speaking about our internal mindset. But there's of course a big element of things, which is external voices. You know, a lot of us are in situations where there are external opinions. There are external opinions that are impacting our ability to dream or to go towards certain things. So how do we stop letting other people's realities dictate our dreams?
This is something that I had to learn the hard way. And it is that if you believe and trust in yourself enough, other people's opinions won't impact you, or won't impact you to the point where it's like stopping you from achieving your goals. It might still hurt you, but it won't stop you from still going ahead and doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like something you said actually that has stuck with me is that is that you can't make me embarrassed of something I'm proud of. Right? So if you're working towards a goal and you're genuinely, you know, you might not have reached the end goal yet. You might be at 20% of the way or 40% of the way. But if you are proud on what you are working towards, if you are proud on the end goal you are looking to achieve, other people's, you know, insecure opinions won't, you know, it'll just bounce off of you, because you'll be able to interpret their mean words as they're just insecure, or they're just haters, or they don't see the vision.
Just having a bad day.
Guys, the amount of times I'm just like, you just don't see the vision.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I changed the narrative to, I actually feel sorry for you. Like, you say this about me, but I can just see how limited your mindset is. I can just see how you just cut yourself so short that really, instead of focusing on me, you should be focusing on yourself. But it's just, I've been able to sort of across the last 5 years probably, I've been able to change the narrative, and it's been very difficult. But yeah, I would just say, just change the narrative, because 99% of the time, the people who are saying these things, it's a reflection of themselves.
For sure. You don't have to inherit other people's failures, other people's projections, and other people's stereotypes. You can write your own rules. And if no one has told you that before, this is me telling you that. Like, you actually can write your own rules.
Yeah.
And the day I realized that, I was like, oh wait, wow, I love that. I love that for me. You really can, like, you actually don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to live someone else's story. And I think a lot of the time, negative opinions that come from external places are based off of that individual's reality, that individual's life experiences. And it doesn't always come from a bad place, but it's up to you to decide how much of that will influence you In regards to kind of like other people's projections, I remember when I wanted to pursue medicine as a career and as a degree, there were extended family members that were like, isn't like a 5-year degree so long? When are you gonna have time to settle down and have kids and marriages? Because my entire life is based off of a marital status.
Children.
And I think it's unfortunate that for us, especially as women, in some cultures and in some traditional settings, that's kind of that's kind of the thing that dictates our life and what we are told we should aim for. But at the end of the day, for anyone who feels this way about anything they're pursuing, we are so much more than our marital status and our womb. Like if no one told you that, I am so much more than a ring and a baby, like dead ass. I have things to do. I have things to do. I have dreams to strive for. I have a reality to build, a life to build. And maybe in the future, this is something that I will see come into the picture or something I would desire. But for now, if it's not a core desire of yours or one of the things on your vision board, it's okay. You don't have to subscribe to anything society tells you. It's completely up to you, the timeline you choose and the dreams that you go for, and no one should be able to dictate that for you and interrupt your dream, your vision, your life to tell you that this is what you should aim for as someone of this background, of someone of this gender, someone of this caliber. You write the rules of your life. You literally are the narrator. So that's just definitely something to keep in mind. Like, people are going to have their stereotypes. They're going to have their belief systems. I literally remember, I really enjoyed reading in secondary school, and kind of the type of school I went to at the time, it was kind of like, oh, you're such a nerd, boo-hoo-hoo. And I remember someone literally said to me like, oh my gosh, you're so white, because I enjoyed reading. Like, intelligence being associated with a race is another conversation within itself. So problematic. But it has its systematic roots in certain communities. But I remember hearing that and feeling like, oh, like, is there something wrong with me? Does this make me less black? Does this make me less liddy? And it's just about understanding that people are going to have their stereotypes, their negative perspectives. Like, I don't know what the heck was going on in their life that made them come to that conclusion. But you are you in every facet, in the most amazing way possible. And you just need to get good at blocking out stupidity. Like, blocking out stupidity.
Guys, honestly, you need the filter.
Like, honestly, like, I'm sorry you think that way, but it has nothing to do with me. Like, it's how I navigate life now for peace.
And I think it gets more difficult when the people who are saying these negative things look like you, sound like you, have the same background, because you think surely they're seeing something I'm not.
Wow.
If we're on paper basically the same person or have had the same background or the same upbringing, surely they're seeing something that I'm not, and they're looking out for me. Essentially, you might fall into that trap of maybe they are right because we've done everything the same way so far, so maybe we should continue doing it the same way. But you can change your future, you can change your reality. You don't have to stay stuck to the same mentality you had at 15, 16, 17, and you don't have to stick to the same mentality that your peers have either. If you would like a different future for yourself, or if you want to start dreaming bigger and achieving bigger goals, it is okay to, quote unquote, step out of line and start doing something that's new but feels true to yourself. These things and these opinions can inform you, especially if it's coming from people you respect, but it doesn't have to dictate the life you live. So how do you build a life that keeps expanding your mindset?
I actually really like that question, because I think it's something that more people should desire.
Ooh.
Yeah. But I would say that you really need to audit your input, like your environments, your community, your content that you're consuming. What are you digesting? What information are you digesting? Are you digesting things that align with a prosperity mindset that tells you you can dream big, you can go for what you want, anything you want in life, go for it? Or are you surrounding yourself with environments that stunt your growth? I think depending on the climate or environment you are in, it will and it can influence the amount of growth you have. Definitely. Internally and externally. We see it with plants, right? They need to be in a certain climate in order to be able to grow. And there's some conditions where some plants, they will not grow, they will be stunted. And I believe our mindset is the same. If you're surrounded by people who have prosperity mindsets, that could be mentors, that could be friends, that could be communities, then naturally you begin to align with that. don't underestimate how powerful your environment can be
Definitely.
in stunting or optimizing you for growth.
100%. And I think, we've experienced it firsthand. You'll go into a conversation with a certain group of people and you'll leave feeling drained or uninspired and just a bit like, just a bit mellow. And then you go into other conversations. Even if you go into the conversation tired, you come out ecstatic.
You're so energized.
You're beaming with energy.
Yeah, because you align so much.
Exactly. When I'm talking to people and we just bounce off ideas off of each other, and I'm like, wow, I can see into your brain, and it's like similar to my brain, and I love it. It just, honestly, it makes me feel over the moon.
Literally.
And I feel like those are the sort of people you need to have in your life. And the people who are draining you, and if every conversation is like a gossip, or if every conversation is like talking bad about other people, or if every conversation is just downplaying things or people, it's like, what am I actually gaining from this conversation? What am I gaining from this friendship? And sometimes you can feel like, because they've been your friends since primary school, they just need to stick around. You just need to keep having these meaningless, draining conversations with them. But
it's not by force.
Some people, some friendships offer seasons, and if you're in a season of building and growing, surround yourself with the people who will help you in that. Like you said with the plant example, when plants are shadowed and there's a shadow, they can't grow because they can no longer see the sun, right? Don't let anyone shadow your life and stop you from reaching the sun.
No,
that
definitely.
So poetic, but it's true.
It's true. Another thing to help you have an expansive mindset for growth, ambition that's crazy, is diversifying your experiences. That could be books, events, networking. You need to diversify your experiences. I love reading articles, for example. I love listening to podcasts. I learned so much from those around me, and it inspires me. It inspires me like no tomorrow. And inspiration is not just in a creative form. It's not just that. It's not just because I'm a content creator that I need inspiration. I think regardless of what you do, gaining inspiration from other people really feeds into you and refines who you are, and the type of life you're pursuing for yourself. It may not always be comfortable. For example, going to a networking event yourself can be quite nerve-wracking, all these things. Choosing things that challenge you can lead to growth. Growth is rarely done in comfort. It tends to be outside of your comfort zone or trying something that you haven't tried before. And I just think you need to have the proactiveness and the genuine desire to expand your mindset, to walk in your prosperity mindset, not just acquire it, but to walk in it. And by diversifying your experiences, it can ensure you align with that.
And I think it's so important, because I feel like the education system, taking it back a bit, it forces us to focus on one thing, right? Like to become really good at this one thing, and then you get into a job in that one thing, and then you keep doing that one thing. And as humans, we have quite a few talents and interests, but we're sort of taught to funnel it down to one interest and one thing we're good at, and do that for the rest of our lives. But it most definitely does not have to be like that. And by sort of diversifying your experiences and your interests, you will be able to maybe even pick up old things that you really enjoyed doing that you've sort of forgotten about, because you stopped doing that because you're focusing on exams instead, for example, and it will allow you to
old interests and hobbies.
You'll be able to pick up old interests and hobbies, and even new ones as well, that will help you in furthering your experiences.
I love that. And I think as well, not to take a deep turn in this topic.
Where are you taking it?
But I think one thing as well is, since we're on the question of like how to build a life that keeps expanding your mindset, so something that's long-term and sustainable, I think it's important to touch on this as well. And that is, we need to respond to life with our choices and not our circumstances, because in the long run, things are going to happen, setbacks are going to happen, failures are going to happen, crap is going to happen in your life that you don't necessarily want to occur. But it's kind of like, how do you respond to the cards you've been dealt with? What do you do with those cards? Like, are you going to shuffle it and make it work for you? Or are you going to sit there complaining about it? Are you going to sit there just like being upset for the next 5 years? And it's not to say that people aren't dealing with horrible things or with negative situations, but it's to say that it comes a time where you need to choose to stand up, where you need to choose that, okay, this has occurred, this was out of my control, I'm not a big fan of the circumstance, but how am I going to take it and spin it and make it work for me? Because I only get this one life, and I need to make all things work in my favor. So I think that's another thing that's important. If you want to keep walking in a way that expands your mindset and keep walking in prosperity mindset as well, with a prosperity mindset as well.
And I do think, just to caveat that a little bit, there is no timeline to when you have to stand up. No one else can dictate that but yourself. Whatever you're going through, whatever, heartbreak, grief, disappointment, whatever you are going through, obviously allow yourself to feel your emotions, allow yourself to really break down what you've experienced and process it to ensure it doesn't hang over your head for the rest of your life. But once that has happened, don't dwell within it for years on end. Like Lily said, stand up and pick your life back up and continue to strive for the goals and the aims you once had.
Or new ones that you create. The point of it is that you deserve it, and you are worthy of acquiring everything that you believe you deserve and you want to walk in. So don't allow life circumstances, external opinions, internal opinions to hold you back. Like, you've got this.
Yeah, you got this.
What would you say to the girl waiting for someone to tell her that she's allowed to dream bigger?
Oh, waiting for someone else to tell them.
Yeah, waiting for someone to tell her.
Wow. Girl,
ain't nobody coming to
no one's coming.
Ain't nobody coming to save you.
In this life, we're all really like working for our own life. We're all really striving for our own goals. Everyone is too busy with their own life, so it would almost be selfish to think someone else is going to come and tell you what to do. You need to pick up your bags, pick up the suitcase, whatever it is, and just go for life yourself. At one point, you need to accept that I am no longer going to get spoon-fed information or spoon-fed the next task I need to complete, but instead I am now like the captain of my own ship almost, and I will now navigate my life. And whether it's a storm or a smooth sailing journey, I will navigate it myself. And the sooner you make this decision, the earlier you can start working towards your future, essentially, and start putting those foundations in place to then build upon and build yourself the ambitious life you want to work towards.
And it's not to say that you have to be hyper independent. I'm a big believer in community. For those of you who maybe rely on faith and other things, but I think the point is that there's a level of proactiveness that comes with it. It's good to rely on community. It's good to walk with community. Do what you need to do. No one's saying take the lonely road and be alone and go for what you want alone. No, not at all. But it's more so about being proactive and having a level of independence and intentionality. Because at the end of the day, the ceiling only lifts when you do. Like, you need to get up in order for everything else to elevate. Do you get what I mean? And I think boldness is a muscle that you need to keep flexing and practicing over time until it gets easier. And before you know it, all elements of your life will reflect this new, audacious, bold version of who you are.
Wow. That was good. What was that?
So it's now time for the dilemmas. So we look at what our ambitious girlies are struggling with at the moment. We normally ask you guys on Instagram just to submit any anonymous dilemmas you have. So definitely check out Instagram at Liddy and Hazal to keep an eye on that. But Hazal, would you like to read?
Hey, Liddy and Hazal. I've been loving the podcast. It's honestly been helping me reframe a lot of things. Oh, love that. Thank you. I recently got into a graduate role I worked really hard for. But now that I'm here, I feel like I don't belong. Oh, everyone around me seems more confident, more capable, more put together. And I just feel like I somehow tricked my way in. No. Like they're going to realize I'm not as smart or qualified and regret hiring me. I keep telling myself to be grateful, but the truth is I feel like an imposter. How do I shake this off and actually own the opportunities I've earned? Damn.
You know what? I actually love the fact that she subtly touched on imposter syndrome, because I feel like that's one of the most common feelings amongst ambitious women.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it goes to show that you can literally have the qualifications, the skill sets, but as long as your mindset is in survival mode, you will always be restricted by those limitations. So I think at this point, it's kind of just about asking yourself, what is making you believe that you need to prove a position that's already been handed to you?
Yeah.
You need to prove yourself, even though you have already been explicitly told that we think you're competent, we think you belong here.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of goes back to a mindset thing, and perhaps what you've internalized through maybe your environment, through maybe social media. And sometimes as well, if you don't always see people who look like you in a certain setting, that can be one of the things that also tells you that maybe this is not your space.
Yeah.
I implore you to have the audacity and the boldness to kind of just reaffirm yourself in the fact that it doesn't matter if maybe you haven't seen people around you be in those spaces who look like you, XYZ. It doesn't matter if you've been raised to believe that you always need to prove your worth. You are there, you have occupied that space, and you ought to walk as someone who worked for it and deserves to be there and deserves to feel happiness, gratitude, and safety in that position.
Yeah, something that helps me when I feel imposter syndrome. And to be fair, I was in a similar position to her, and I felt it when I started my first job after graduating university. Was we need to go back to the basics. I had to remind myself of my qualifications. I had to sit down and say, you know, you did this many years of your degree, you passed this many exams. If you were not capable, you would have slipped up at one of these hurdles. And you would have continued to slip up. You wouldn't have progressed like you have. Sometimes you need to go back to the basics, go back to the hard evidence of the exams you have passed and the qualifications you have gained to get to where you are. Because the human mind, sometimes it's our worst enemy. Like, it will make us believe things that are literally not true, like you're not worthy to be here or everyone else here is better than you. But if we all pass the same exams and we all have the same qualifications, it's a level playing field. Like, that scientifically, that's where we are. So sometimes I need to take it back to the basics and remind myself of everything I've done and achieved to get here, to know that, you know, I deserve to be here. And also try to reframe having a job as, instead of, it seems like currently she's seen it as like I should be very grateful that they have given me this
Lucky
job.
They picked me.
Yeah. But change that narrative to, they are lucky to have me. You know, they are lucky that with my skill set and with my knowledge and with my capabilities, I'm choosing to work at your company rather than another company. Sometimes we need to be a little big-headed. Sometimes we need to have that ego, because that cockiness, because not too much, but you know what they say, it's a dog eat dog world. And especially within the, you know, the job sector, if you're not able to sell yourself, someone else will, and someone else will get that position. So you need to back yourself, you need to back your qualifications and back your abilities. And the worst that can happen is, you know, you back yourself a bit too much and they're like, calm down. Like, they're not going to kick you out because you're backing yourself. You're just you're backing yourself using the hard evidence you have.
Exactly.
So
like, you don't belong here, why not?
Yeah.
You know, you don't feel worthy, why not? Why are you not worthy? Why don't you belong here? You just need to, if your internal dialogue is trying to beef you, beef it back.
Beef it back. You literally,
why don't I belong here? And, you know, I don't know whether to go into this or not, but I wonder the extent to which, like, being a female plays a role in it.
Ooh.
Like, I do think many of us women were raised to play it small, to be timid,
downplay stuff,
not to be too loud, not to be too confident, because it's associated with masculinity. Because sometimes when I look at my male counterparts, they navigate things much differently.
They walk it with stride.
Some of them, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess it's about tapping into some of that energy. Like, bro, let me borrow some of that, because at the end of the day, if you are there, you are just as deserving. And it's about breaking free from those things we had to internalize when we were being raised, about always playing like the timid, you know, not showing up too much role, because that's what women should be like. But it's like,
definitely.
Says who?
Yeah, I think if it is internal factors inhibiting you, definitely the advice Lily gave, make sure you take that on board. If it's external factors, like someone at work is making snarky comments, your manager's, you know, looking at you sideways, HR. Straight to HR. No one should make you feel uncomfortable in a workplace. In a workplace that you worked and you put grit into to get into, and you have the qualifications for. Like, we need to stand on business sometimes.
Yeah, no one hides your backs.
Literally. But you got this, and I hope you get to a position where you're comfortable and you genuinely believe that you deserve to be where you are.
Yeah. So now that we're kind of coming to the end of today's episode, if there is one thing that you want the ambitious girlies to take away from today's episode, what would it be?
I'm going to repeat something you said earlier in this episode, which is, dear ambitious girlies, Your mindset.
Nearly there, but not too close.
Dear ambitious girlies, the ceiling will only lift if you stand up to lift it.
My one, it's a bit tough love. It might sound a bit blunt, but dear ambitious girlies.
I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't know what she's about to say, guys. It's fine. I'm here to protect you guys.
Guys, no, but it's genuine. It's good love and advice that I would have loved to hear as well. But dear ambitious girlies, no one is coming to save you. Genuinely, no one's coming to save you. There's an element of proactiveness that you need in order to grasp everything that you deserve in life. And it's a reality that some of us need to hit a bit sooner. Or else you're going to miss out on so many beautiful and wonderful things in this life that you don't deserve to miss out on.
She said there's no Prince Charming. She said this is not a movie.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really, really enjoyed that.
Me
I thought
too.
it was very informative, and even I have to do a bit of reflecting, to be honest.
Yeah.
But honestly, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you're listening into any audio platforms, be sure to share it as well with your network, your friends, the girls group chat, and of course follow us on @LydiaandHazal on literally every platform, and we'll be sure to see you in a new episode very soon.
Bye.